Chapter 13. Escape of the Gunas. A delighted Shiva embraced Virabhadra as Sati hugged Kritika. The duo had just entered Shiva's private chamber in the Kashi palace. Virabhadra and Kritika had had an uneventful journey through Meluha. Their reception at the village where the Gunas had been housed had taken them by surprise. There were no soldiers, no alarm, nothing out of the ordinary. Clearly, the Gunas were not being targeted as leverage against the Nilkanth. The system-driven Meluhans had achieved what their system had conceived, everybody being treated in accordance with the law with no special provisions for any particular people. "Didn't you face any trouble?" asked Shiva. "None," said Virabhadra. "The tribe lived just like everyone else, in comfortable egalitarianism. We quickly bundled them into a caravan and quietly escaped. We arrived in Kashi a few months later." "That means they're not aware as yet of my escape at the Godavari," said Shiva. "Or else they would have arrested the Gunas." "That is the logical conclusion. But it also means that if any Meluhan happens to check the Guna village and finds them missing, they will assume that I'm alive and am planning a confrontation." "That is also a logical conclusion. But there's nothing we can do about that, can we?" "No, there isn't," agreed Shiva. "Didi," smiled Kali as she embraced her sister. "How are you doing, Kali?" asked Sati. "I'm tired. My ship had to race down the Chambal and Gunga to catch up with you." "Nice to meet you after so many months, Kali," said Shiva. "Likewise," said Kali. "How was Ujjain?" "A city that is worthy of Lord Ram," said Shiva. "Is it true that some of the Vasudevs have accompanied you here?" "Yes, including the chief Vasudev himself, Lord Gopal." Kali whistled softly. "I was not even aware of the chief Vasudev's name till just the other day, and now it looks like I will be meeting him soon. The scenario must be really grim for him to emerge from his seclusion like this." "Change doesn't happen easily," said Shiva. "I don't expect the supporters of the Samras to fade into the sunset. The Vasudevs in fact believe the war has already begun, regardless of whether it has been declared or not. That it's just a matter of time before actual hostilities break out." "I agree." "Is that why my ship was dragged into the Asi River?" asked Kali. "I was worried that it might not make it into the harbor. This river is so small that it should actually be called a culvert." "That is for the ship's protection, Kali," said Shiva. "It was Lord Athithigva's idea. The Kashi harbor, just like the city, is not protected by any walls. Our enemies may hesitate to attack the city itself due to their faith in Lord Rayudra's protective spirit over Kashi. But any ships anchored on the Gunga would be fair game. Hence the decision to move the ships into the Asi, which as you know, flows into the Gunga," said Sati. "The channel at the mouth of the river is narrow, thus not more than one enemy ship can come through at a time. Our ships therefore can be easily defended. Also, the Asi flows through the city of Kashi. Most Chandravanshis would not want to venture within, believing that the spirit of Lord Rayudra would curse them for harming Kashi, even by mistake." Kali raised her eyebrows. "Using an enemy's own superstition against him? I like it. Sometimes good tactics can work better than a sword edge," said Shiva, grinning. "Ah," said Kali, smiling. "You are only saying that because you haven't encountered my sword." Shiva and Sati laughed convivially. Shiva and his core group were in the main hall of the Grand Kashi Vishwanath temple. Athithigva had stepped into the inner sanctum, along with the main pandit of the temple, to offer prasad to the idols of Lord Rayudra and Lady Mohini. He returned thereafter with the ritual offerings made to the gods. "May Lord Rayudra and Lady Mohini bless our enterprise," said Athithigva, offering the prasad to Shiva. Shiva took the prasad with both hands, swallowed it whole and ran his right hand over his head, thus offering his thanks to the Lord and Lady for their blessings. Meanwhile, the temple pandit distributed the prasad to everybody else. The ceremonies over, Athithagva sat down with the group to discuss the strategy for the war ahead. The pandit was led out of the temple by Kashi policemen and the entrance sealed. No one was to be allowed into the premises for the duration of the meeting. "My lord, my people are forbidden any acts of violence except if it is in self-defense," said Athithagva. "So we cannot join the campaign actively with you. But all the resources of my kingdom are at your command." Shiva smiled. The peace-loving Kashi people would, in any case, not really make good soldiers. He had no intention of leading them into battles. "I know, King Athithagva. I would not ask anything of your people that they would be honor-bound to refuse. But you must be able to defend Kashi if attacked, for we intend to house many of our war resources here. We will defend it to our last breath, my lord," said Athithagva. Shiva nodded. He did not really expect the Chandravanshas to attack Kashi. He turned towards Gopal. "Panditji, there are many things that we need to discuss. To begin with, how do we keep the Chandravanshas out of the war theater in Meluha? Secondly, what strategy should we adopt with Meluha? I think what Lord Ganesh and Kartik suggested is an excellent idea," said Gopal. "Let us hope we can rope and Magad to our side." "Easier said than done," said Kali. "Surapadman would be compelled by his father to seek vengeance for his stupid brother Ugrasen. And I don't propose handing over Ganesh for what was, in fact, a just execution." "So what are you suggesting, Kali?" asked Sati. "Well, I'm suggesting that we either fight Magad right away or we tell them that we will investigate and hand over the Naga culprit as soon as we lay our hands on him." Sati instinctively held Ganesh's hand protectively. Kali laughed softly. "Didi, all I'm suggesting is that we make Surapadman think that we are going to hand him over. That way, we can buy some time and attack Ayodhya." "Are you saying that we lie to the Magadhans, your highness?" asked Gopal. Kali frowned at Gopal. "All I'm saying is we be economical with the truth, great Vasudev. The future of India is at stake. There are many who are counting on us. If we have to taint our souls with the sin for the sake of greater good, then so be it." "I will not lie," said Shiva. "This is a war against evil. We are on the side of good. Our fight must reflect that." "Bubba," said Ganesh. "You know I would agree with you under normal circumstances. But do you think the other side has maintained the standards you are espousing? Wasn't the attack on us at Panchavati an act of pure deception and subterfuge? I don't believe it is wrong to attack an unprepared enemy. Yes, their using Devyastras can be considered questionable. Even so, two wrongs don't make a right. I will not lie to win this war. We will win it the right way." Kartik remained silent. Whereas he agreed with the pragmatism of Ganesh's words, he was inspired by the moral clarity in Shiva's. Gopal smiled at Shiva. "Satyam Vada. Asatyam Mavada." "What?" asked Shiva. Kali spoke up. "It's old Sanskrit. Speak the truth, never speak the untruth." Sati smiled. "I agree." "Well, I know some old Sanskrit too," said Kali. "Satyam Brayat Priyam Brayat, Na Brayat. Satyam Aprayam." Shiva raised his hands in dismay. "Can we cut out the old Sanskrit one-upmanship? I don't follow what you people are saying." Gopal translated for Shiva. "What Queen Kali said means speak the truth in a pleasing manner, but never speak the truth which is unpleasant to others." "It's not my line," said Kali, turning to Shiva. "It can be attributed to a sage of yore, I'm sure. But I think it makes sense. We don't have to reveal to Surapadman that we know who his brother's killer is. All we need to motivate him to do is to wait till after we have attacked Ayodhya before choosing his friends and his enemies. His ambition will guide him in the direction that we desire. The walls of Ayodhya are impregnable, warned Gopal, drawing attention to another factor. We might be able to bog them down, but we won't be able to destroy the city. I know, said Ganesh. But our aim is not to destroy Ayodhya. It is to ensure that their navy is unable to sail their forces over to Meluha. Our main battle will be in Meluha. But what if Surapadman attacks from the rear after we have laid siege on Ayodhya? Asked Gopal. Caught between Ayodhya in front of us and Surapadman behind us, we could get destroyed. Actually, no, said Ganesh. Surapadman attacking us from behind would make things easier for us. It's when he moves out of Magad that we'll make our move. Shiva, Kartik and Sati smiled, they understood the plan. Brilliant, exclaimed Parshuram. The rest turned to Parshuram for a whispered explanation on the side. You don't have to lie, continued Kali to Shiva. Refrain from telling Surapadman the entire truth, except for those portions which will make him pause. Let his ambition play out the rest. We require him to allow our ships to pass through the confluence of the Sarayu and Gunga, towards Ayodhya. Once that is done we will achieve our objective. One way or the other, either by holding Ayodhya back or by destroying the Magadhan army. Shiva's brief nod acknowledged his assent. But what about Meluha? Should we launch a frontal attack with all our might? Or, should we adopt diversionary tactics to distract their armies while a small group searches for the secret Samra's facility and destroys it? Our Branga and Vaishli forces will battle in Magad and Ayodhya, leaving the Vasudevs and the Naga armies for the Meluhan campaign, said Sati. So he will have much smaller forces in Meluha. Of course, they will be exceptionally well trained and will have superb technological skills, like the fire-spewing elephant core that the Vasudevs have developed recently. But we have to respect the Meluhan forces, they're equally well trained and technologically adept. So are you suggesting that we avoid a direct attack? Asked Shiva. Yes, said Sati. Our main aim has to be to destroy the Samra's manufacturing facility. It will take them years to rebuild it. That much time is more than enough for your word to prevail amongst the people. The average Meluhan is devoted to the legend of the Neelkanth. The Samras will die a natural death. But if we attack directly, the war with Meluha will drag on for a long time. The more it drags on, the more innocent people will be. Also, the Meluhans will begin to look upon the war as an attack on their beloved country, and not the Samras. I'm sure there will be large numbers of Meluhans who would be willing to turn against the Samras, but if we challenge their patriotism, then we have no chance of winning. Kali was smiling. What? Asked Sati. I noticed that you said they instead of we when you referred to the Meluhans, said Kali. Sati seemed perplexed. She still believed Meluha was her own land. That's unimportant. It's still my country. Sure it is, smiled Kali. Gopal cut in. Just for the sake of argument, let us imagine what would happen if there is a direct all-out war. That is something we will have to avoid, said Shiva. I see sense in what Sati is saying. Nevertheless, let us consider what Lord Brigu and Dakshal might think, said Gopal. I agree, it is in our interest to not have a direct war. But it is in their interest to have one. And a destructive one at that. They will want tensions to escalate so that they can confuse the people. They will then say that the Neelkanth has betrayed Meluha. Like Lady Sati just pointed out, the patriotism of the Meluhans could drown out their faith in the Neelkanth. I agree that Lord Brigu may want to escalate the situation, said Shiva. What I do not understand is how he will manage it once it has. I have seen the Meluhan army from up close. It's a centralized, well-drilled unit. But the problem with such armies is their utter dependence on a good commander. Their general, Parveshwar, is with us. Trust me. They do not have another man like him. If Lord Brigu is as intelligent as you say he is, he would know that too. Ganesh and Kartik sighed at the same time. Shiva glared at his sons. Bubba, said Kartik. Damn it, screamed Shiva. You will not doubt his loyalty. Am I clear? Ganesh and Kartik bowed their heads, their mouths pursed mutinously. Am I clear? Asked Shiva once again. Kali frowned at Shiva before looking at Ganesh and Kartik, but remained silent. Shiva turned back to Gopal. We have to avoid provocation. Our military formations have to be solidly defensive, so as to deter them from staging an open confrontation. The main task for our army is to keep them distracted, so that a smaller unit can search the towns on the Saraswati for signs of the Somers manufacturing facility. Once we succeed in destroying that facility, we will win the war. Nandi, said Sati, turning to the Meluhan major. Nandi immediately laid out a map of Meluha. Everyone peered at it. Look, said Sati. The Saraswati ends in an inland delta. The Meluhans will not be able to get their massive fleet from Kurakapa into the Saraswati. Their defense doctrine covers just two possible threats, a naval attack via the Indus or a land-based army attack from the east. That is why they don't have a massive fleet on the Saraswati. Shiva grasped what Sati was alluding to. They are unprepared for a naval attack on the Saraswati. You have to understand that this is with good reason. They assumed that no enemy ships could enter the Saraswati. No enemy-controlled rivers flow into it and the Saraswati does not open to the sea. But isn't that just the problem? Asked a confused Athithagva. How will we get ships into the Saraswati? We won't, said Shiva. We will capture the Meluhan ships stationed in the Saraswati instead. Kali nodded. That is the last thing they would expect, which is the reason why it will work. Yes, said Sati. All we have to do is capture Mridikavati, which is where most of the Saraswati command of the Meluhan navy is stationed. Once we're in possession of those ships, we will control the Saraswati. We can quickly sail up, unchallenged, even as we continue our search for the Somers manufacturing facility. That's correct, said Brahaspati. The manufacturing facility can only be on the banks of the Saraswati. It cannot possibly be anywhere else. This sounds like a good plan, said Gopal. But how do we capture their ships? Where do we enter their territory from? Mridikavati is not a border town. We will have to march in with an army. And we will obviously face resistance from the border town that falls on the way, Lothal. Lothal? Asked Kartik. Lothal is the port of Mka, said Gopal. They are practically twin cities. Mka is where all the Meluhan children are born and raised, while Lothal is the local army base. Don't worry about Mka or Lothal, said Kali. They will be on our side. Gopal, Shiva and Sati seemed genuinely surprised. If there are any Meluhans who will have sympathy for us, it will be the people of Mka. Continued Kali. They have seen the Naga children suffer. They have tried to help us on many occasions, even breaking their own laws in the process. The present governor of Mka, Chinardhwaj, is also the administrator of Lothal. He was transferred from Kashmir a few years back. He is loyal to the institution of the Nilkanth. Furthermore, I have saved his life once. Trust me, both Mka and Lothal will be with us when hostilities break out. I remember Chinardhwaj, said Shiva. All right then, we will utilize the support of Lothal to conquer Mridikavati. Then we'll use their ships to search the towns on the Saraswati. But remember, we must try and avoid a direct clash. Chapter 14. The Reader of Minds. Do you believe we can convince him? Asked Shiva. The Vasudev chief, Gopal, had just walked into Shiva's chamber. Sati and the Neelkanth were preparing to leave for Magad with him. Ganesh and Kartik had come to say goodbye to their parents. I would have been worried had we been meeting Lord Brigu, said Gopal. But it's only Surapadman. What is so special about Lord Brigu? Asked Shiva. He is only human. Why are all of you so wary of him? He is a Maharishi, Shiva, said Sati. In fact, like Gopalji had mentioned, Lord Brigu is believed by many to be beyond a Maharishi. He's a Saptarishi Uttradhikari. You should respect a man, not his position, said Shiva, before turning to Gopal. Once again I ask, my friend, why are you so nervous about him? Well, for starters, he can read minds, said Gopal. So? Asked Shiva. You and I can do that too. Every Vasudev Pandit can, in fact. True, but we can only do so while we're in one of our temples. Lord Brigu can read the mind of anyone around him, regardless of where he is. Ganesh looked genuinely surprised. How? Well, said Gopal, our brains transmit radio waves when we think. These thoughts can be detected by a trained person, provided he is within the range of a powerful transmitter. But it is believed that Maharishis can go a step further. They do not need to wait till our thoughts are converted into radio waves, to be able to detect them. They can read our thoughts even as we formulate them. But how? Thoughts are nothing but electrical impulses in our brain, said Gopal. These impulses make the pupils of our eyes move minutely. A trained person, like a Maharishi, can decipher this movement in our pupils and read our thoughts. Lord Ram, be merciful, whispered a stunned Kartik. I still do not understand how this is possible, remarked a skeptical Shiva. Are you saying all our thoughts are exposed by the movement of our pupils? What language would that communication be in? This makes no sense. My friend, said Gopal, you are confusing the language of communication with the internal language of the brain. Sanskrit, for example, is a language of communication. You use it to communicate with others. You also use it to communicate with your own brain, so that your conscious mind can understand your inner thoughts. But the brain itself uses only one language for its own working. This is a universal language across all brains of all known species. And the alphabet of this language has 2 letters, or signals. 2 signals? Asked Sati. Yes, said Gopal, only 2, electricity on and electricity off. Our brain has millions of thoughts and instructions running simultaneously within. But at any one point of time, only one of these thoughts can capture our conscious attention. This particular thought gets reflected in our eyes through the language of the brain. A Maharishi can read this conscious thought. So one has to be very careful about what one consciously thinks in the presence of a Maharishi. So the eye is indeed the window to one's soul, said Ganesh. Gopal smiled. It appears that it is. Shiva grinned, his brows raised. Well, I'll make sure that I keep mine shut when I meet Lord Brigu. Gopal and Sati laughed softly. Nevertheless, we will win, said Gopal. Yes, said Ganesh. We're on the side of good. That is true, without doubt. But that is not the reason, Lord Ganesh. We will win because of your father, said Gopal. No, said Shiva. It cannot be only me. We will win because we're all in this together. It is you who brings us together, great Neelkanth, said Gopal. Lord Brigu may be as intelligent as you are, maybe more. But he is not a leader like you. He uses, rather, misuses his brilliance to cow down his followers. They don't idolize him, they are scared of him. You, on the other hand, are able to draw out the best in your followers. My friend, don't think I did not understand what you did a few days back. You had decided upon your course of action already. But that did not stop you from having a discussion, allowing us to be a part of the decision. Somehow, you guided us all into saying what you wanted to hear. And yet, you made each one of us feel as if it was our own decision. That is leadership. Lord Brigu may have a bigger army than ours, but he fights alone. In our case, our entire army will fight as one. That, great Neelkanth, is a supreme tribute to your leadership. Shiva, embarrassed as always when complimented, quickly changed the topic. You are being too kind, Gopalji. In any case, I think we should leave. Magadha awaits us. Bhagat is here? Samantaka nodded at his stunned emperor. Yes, my lord. But how did he? Prime Minister Samantaka, said Brigu, interrupting Dileepa. I would be delighted to meet him. Have Princess Anandami and her husband accompanied him? No, my lord, said Samantaka. He has come alone. That is most unfortunate, said Brigu. Please show him in with complete honor into our presence. As you wish, my lord, said Samantaka, as he bowed to Brigu and Dileepa before leaving the room. As soon as he had left, Brigu turned towards Dileepa. Your Highness, you must learn to control yourself. Samantaka is unaware of the attack at the Godavari. I'm sorry, my lord, said Dileepa. It's just that I'm shocked. I'm not. Dileepa frowned. Why, my lord? Did you expect this? I can't say that I expected this specifically. But I had strong suspicions that our attack had failed. The only question was how they would be confirmed. I don't understand, my lord. Our ships could have got destroyed in so many ways. It wasn't only the destruction of our ships. There is something else. I had asked Kanakala to try and locate the Gunas. Who are the Gunas? They are the tribe of that fraud Neelkanth. The Gunas were immigrants in Meluha. There are standard policies in Meluha for immigrants, one of them being that their records are kept strictly secret. This system ensures that they are not targeted or oppressed, and are in fact, treated well. But the upshot was that the royal record keeper was refusing to tell his own prime minister where the Gunas were settled. How can the record keeper do that? The prime minister's word would be the order of the emperor. And his word is law. Well, smiled Brigu. Meluha is not like your empire, Lord Dileepa. They have this irritating habit of sticking to rules. Brigu's sarcasm was lost on Dileepa. So what happened, my lord? Did you find the Gunas? At first, Kanakala seemed quite sure that the Gunas were in Devagiri itself. When that initial search yielded nothing, she had no choice but to approach Emperor Daksha. He passed an order through the Rajya Sabha that would force the Meluhan record keeper to reveal the location of the Gunas. By the time we reached their village, they were gone. Gone where? I don't know. I was told this happens quite often. Many immigrants are not able to adapt to the civilized but regimented life in Meluha and choose to return to their homelands. So I was asked to believe that the Gunas must have gone back to the Himalayas. And did you believe that? Of course I didn't. I suspected the fraud Neelkanth must have spirited his tribe away before declaring war. But what could I do? I didn't know where the Gunas were. But why is Bhagat here? Why would the Neelkanth reveal his hand? Fraud Neelkanth, your highness, said Brigu, correcting Dileepa. I'm sorry, my lord, said Dileepa. Brigu looked up at the ceiling. Yes, why has Shiva sent him here? My God! Whispered Dileepa. Could he have been sent here to assassinate me? Brigu shook his head. That is unlikely. I don't think killing you, your highness, would serve any larger purpose. Dilipa opened his mouth to say something but decided instead to remain silent. Yes, continued Brigu, narrowing his eyes, we do need to know why Prince Bhagat is here. I look forward to meeting him. Father, said Bhagat as he walked confidently into Dilipa's chamber. Dilipa smiled as best he could. He didn't really like his son. How are you, Bhagat? I'm alright, father. How was your trip to Panchavati? Bhagat glanced at Brigu, wondering who the old Brahmin was, before turning back to his father. It was an uneventful trip, father. Perhaps the Nagas are not as bad as we think. Some of us have returned early. The Lord Neelkanth will join us later. Dilipa frowned, as if surprised, and turned towards Brigu. Bhagat arched his eyebrow before turning towards Brigu as well with a namaste and quick bow of his head. Please accept my apologies for my bad manners, Brahmin. I was overwhelmed with emotions on seeing my father. Brigu looked deep into Bhagat's eyes. Bhagat is consumed with curiosity about who I am. I better put this to rest so that his conscious mind can move on to more useful thoughts. Perhaps it is I who should apologize, said Brigu. I have not introduced myself. I'm a simple sage who lives in the Himalayas and goes by the name of Brigu. Bhagat straightened up in surprise. Of course he knew who Brigu was, although he hadn't met him. Bhagat stepped forward and bent low, touching the sage's feet. Maharishi Brigu, it is my life's honor to meet you. I am fortunate to have the opportunity to seek your blessings. Yushman Bhav, said Brigu, blessing Bhagat with a long life. Brigu then placed his hands on Bhagat's shoulders and pulled him up, while once again looking directly into his eyes. Bhagat has realized that his imbecile father is not the true leader. I am. And he's scared. Good. Now all I have to do is make him think some more. I trust the Neelkanth as well? Asked Brigu. I have still not had the pleasure of meeting the man who commoners believe is the savior of our times. He is well, my lord, said Bhagat, and is worthy of the title he carries. In fact, there are those of us who believe that he even deserves the title of the Mahadev. So, Bhagat volunteered to uncover the identity of the true leader. Interesting. That Tibetan barbarian understands that this fool Dilipa could not have been the one. He has more intelligence than I thought. Allow posterity to prevail upon the present in deciding the honor and title bestowed upon man, my dear Prince of Ayodhya, said Brigu. Duty must be performed for its own sake, not for the power and pelf it might bring. I am sure that even your Neelkanth is familiar with Lord Vasudev's nugget of wisdom which encapsulates this thought. Karmanvadaka rast mafal shukad akana. Oh, the Neelkanth is the embodiment of that thought, Maharishiji, said Bhagat. He never calls himself the Mahadev. It is we who address him as such. Brigu smiled. Your Neelkanth must be truly great to inspire such loyalty, brave prince. By the way, how was Panchavati? I have never had the pleasure of visiting that land. It is a beautiful city, Maharishiji. They were attacked at the outskirts of Panchavati. So our ships did make it through. And their devil boats got us. Well, at least our information about the location of Panchavati is correct. With Lord Ram's blessings, said Brigu, I will visit Panchavati someday. I'm sure that the Queen of the Nagas would be honored, my lord, said Bhagat. Brigu smiled. Kali would kill me if she had half a chance. Her temper is even more volatile than Lord Ryudra's legendary anger. But Prince Bhagat, said Brigu, I must complain about an iniquity that you have committed. An astonished Bhagat folded his hands together in an apologetic namaste. I apologize profusely if I have offended you in any way, my lord. Please tell me how I can set it right. It's very simple, said Brigu. I was really looking forward to meeting the emperors daughter and her new husband. But you have not brought Princess Anandmi along with you. Apologies for my oversight, my lord, said Bhagat. I overlooked this only because I rushed here to pay obeisance to my respected father, whom I have not met for a long time. And Princess Anandmi has dutifully accompanied her husband General Parvateshwar to Kashi. Brigu suddenly held his breath as he read Bhagat's thoughts. Parvateshwar wants to defect? He wants to return to Meluha. I guess I will only have the pleasure of meeting Princess Anandmi and General Parvateshwar when the Almighty wills it, said Brigu. The smile on Brigu's face left Bhagat with a sense of unease. Hopefully that will be soon enough, my lord, said Bhagat. If I may now be excused. I'd like to meet up with some people and then head to Kashi for some unfinished tasks. Dileepa was about to say something when Brigu raised his hand and placed it on Bhagat's head. Of course, brave prince. Go with Lord Ram. Why did you let him go, my lord? Said Dileepa, as soon as Bhagat had left. We could have arrested him. The interrogation would have surely revealed what happened in Panchavati. I'm already aware of what happened, said Brigu. Our ships did reach Panchavati and even managed to kill a large number from amongst their convoy. But they did not kill the main leaders. Shiva is still alive. And our ships were destroyed in the battle. Even so, we should not allow Bhagat to leave. Why are we letting one of their main leaders go back unharmed? I have blessed him with a long life, your highness. I'm sure you don't want me to be proven a liar. Of course not, my lord. Brigu looked at Dileepa and smiled. I know what you are thinking, your highness. Trust me, in chess as in war, one sometimes sacrifices a minor piece for the strategic advantage of capturing a more important piece several moves later. Dileepa frowned. Let me make myself very clear, your highness, said Brigu. Prince Bhagat must not be harmed in Ayodhya. I imagine he will leave your city within a day. He should leave safe and sound. I want them to think that we are none the wiser from Bhagat's brief visit. Yes, my lord. Provision and ready a fast sailboat. I must leave for Kashi immediately. Yes, my lord. Please have the manifest of my ship state that I am going to Prayag. Bhagat still has friends in Ayodhya. I don't want him to know that I'm leaving for Kashi. Is that clear? Of course, my lord. I will have Syamantak take care of this immediately. Chapter 15. The Magadhan Issue. Shiva, Sati and Gopal had just been led into the guest chambers of Surapadman's royal palace by Antak, the Magadhan minister for ports. Gopal waited for him to leave and then remarked, "It's interesting that we are being housed in Surapadman's private residence and not King Mahendra's palace. Surapadman wants to serve as the exclusive channel of information between us and his father," said Sati. "Being the sole intermediary also allows him the discretion of passing on things selectively. It actually makes me more hopeful of success." "I am far less hopeful," countered Shiva. "No doubt it is actually Surapadman's writ that runs large in Magad. Besides being the prince, he is also the keeper of the king's seal. But even he would be wary of his father's reaction following the killing of Prince Ugrasen. Perhaps that is why he wants to talk to us in private here." "Perhaps," said Gopal. "Maybe that's the reason why we were received in Magad by Andak and not King Mahendra's prime minister." "Yes," said Shiva. "I believe Andak is loyal to Surapadman." "Let's hope for the best," said Sati. As Shiva, Sati and Gopal entered the prince's court, Surapadman rose from his ceremonial chair. He walked up to the Neelkanth and then went down on his knees. Surapadman placed his head on Shiva's feet. "Bless me, great Neelkanth." "Sukhanabav," said Shiva, placing his hand on Surapadman's head, blessing him with happiness. Surapadman looked up at Shiva. I hope by the time this conversation ends, my lord, you will find it in your heart to bless me with victory along with happiness. Shiva smiled and placed his hands on Surapadman's shoulders as he rose. Please allow me to introduce my companions, Prince Surapadman. This is my wife, Sati. Surapadman bowed low towards Sati. She politely returned Surapadman's greeting. And this is my close friend and the chief of the Vasudevas, Gopal, said Shiva. Surapadman's hands came together in a respectful namaste as his eyes widened with surprise. Lord Ram, be merciful. Pray to him, said Gopal, and he will be. Surapadman smiled. My apologies, Gopalji. My informants have always assured me that the legendary Vasudevas are for real. But I believed they would not interfere with worldly affairs unless an existential crisis was upon us. Such a time is upon us, Surapadman, said Gopal. And all the true followers of Lord Ram must align themselves with the Nilkanth. Surapadman remained silent. Let us make ourselves comfortable, brave Prince of Magad, said Shiva. Surapadman led them to the center of the court where ceremonial chairs had been placed in a circle. Gopal noticed there was no official from the royal Magadhan court, except for Andak. Rumors suggesting that Andak would soon be taking over the command of the Magadhan army were perhaps true. It could also be deduced that the rest of the Magadhan court was not really aligned with the Nilkanth. Considering Magad's traditional rivalry with Ayodhya, one would have imagined that they would choose to align with the Nilkanth. But Ugrasen's murder seemed to have effectively queered the pitch. What can I do for you, my lord? Asked Surapadman. I will come straight to the point, Prince Surapadman, said Shiva. Your elite intelligence officials would have already briefed you that a war is likely. Surapadman nodded silently. Perhaps you would also be aware that Ayodhya has not chosen wisely, said Gopal. Yes, I'm aware of that, said Surapadman, allowing himself a hint of a smile. But given Ayodhya's penchant for indecision and confusion, few can be sure about which side they will eventually find themselves on. Sati smiled. And what do you intend to do, brave prince? My lady, said Surapadman, I am a believer in the legend of the Nilkanth, and the Lord has shown that he is a worthy inheritor of the title of the Mahadev. Shiva shifted in his seat awkwardly, still not comfortable with being compared to the great Lord Rudra. Furthermore, Ayodhya is a terrible overlord, continued Surapadman. It needs to be challenged in the interests of Swadweep. And only Magad has the ability to do that. I can see that only mighty Magad has the strength to confront Ayodhya, said Sati. There you have it, said Surapadman. I have given you 2 good reasons why I should choose to stand with the army of the Nilkanth. Shiva, Gopala and Sati remained silent, waiting for the inevitable but. And yet, said Surapadman, circumstances have made my situation a little more complex. Turning towards Shiva, Surapadman continued, my lord, you must already be aware of my dilemma. My brother, Ugrasen, was killed in a Nugget terrorist attack and my father is hell-bent on seeking vengeance. Keeping the sensitivity of the issue in mind, Shiva spoke softly, Surapadman, I think the incident. My lord, said Surapadman, please forgive me for interrupting you, but I know the truth. I'm not sure you do, Prince Surapadman. Or else your reaction would have been different. Surapadman smiled, looked briefly at Andak and continued. My lord, Andak and I have investigated the case personally. We've visited the spot where my brother and his men were killed. We're aware of the incident. Sati couldn't help inquiring, then why? What can I do, my lady? Asked Surapadman. My father is a grieving old man who has convinced himself that his favorite son was a noble and valiant Kshatriya, who died while defending his kingdom from a cowardly Naga attack. How can I tell him the truth? How do I tell him that Ugrasen was in fact a compulsive gambler who was trying to kidnap a hapless boy rider so that he could win some money? Should I tell my father that my great brother tried to murder a mother who was protecting her own child? That the apparently wicked Nagas were actually heroes who saved a subject of his own kingdom from his son's villainy? Do you think he will even listen to me? There is nobility in truth, said Sati, even if it hurts. Surapadman laughed softly. This is not Meluha, my lady. Meluhan's devotion to the truth is seen by many here as nothing but rigidity of thought. Chandravanshis prefer to choose from several alternative truths which may simultaneously coexist. Sati remained silent. Surapadman turned to Shiva. My lord, my father thinks that I am an ambitious warmonger who's impatient to ascend the throne. He preferred my elder brother, who was more attuned to my father's views. I think he suspects that I engineered the death of Ugrasen, in pursuit of my goals. I'm sure that's not true, said Shiva. You are his capable son. It takes a very self-assured man to appreciate the talents of another, my lord, said Surapadman. Even when it comes to one's own progeny. Ironically, the Nagas have in fact helped me, for my path to the throne is clear. All I have to do is wait for my father to pass on, and desist from doing anything that will make him disinherit me and offer the throne to some relative. Given this, if I were to tell my father that his favorite son's murder by the evil Nagas was absolutely justified, I would probably go down in history as the stupidest royal ever. Gopal smiled slightly. It appears that we are at an impasse, Prince Surapadman. What do we do? Surapadman narrowed his eyes. Just give me a Naga. I can't, said Shiva. I'm not asking for the one who actually killed Ugrasen, my lord, said Surapadman. I guess he is someone important. All I'm asking for is a random Naga. I will present him to my father as Ugrasen's killer and we'll have him executed forthwith. My father will then happily retire and go into sannyas to pray for my brother's soul. And I, along with all the resources of Magad, will stand beside you. I know the Brangas are with you. Victory is assured if Magad and Branga are on the same side. You will win the war, my lord, and evil will be destroyed. All you need to do is sacrifice an insignificant Naga who is suffering for the sins of his past lives. In any case, we will actually be giving him an opportunity to earn good karma. What do you say? Shiva did not hesitate even for a second. I cannot do that, my lord. I will not do that. But no. Surapadman leaned back in his chair. We indeed seem to be at an impasse, great Vasudev. My father will not allow me to fight in an army that includes the Nagas unless we can assuage his thirst for vengeance. Shiva spoke up before Gopal could respond. What if you do not pick any side at all? Surapadman frowned, intrigued. Convince your father to remain neutral, continued Shiva. Allow my ships to proceed to battle with Ayodhya. If we are able to beat them, then your primary enemies are weakened. If they beat us, our army, including the Nagas, would be in retreat. Your imagination can fill in the rest. You win both ways. Surapadman smiled. That does have an attractive ring to it. Parvateshwar and Anandmi were housed in a separate wing of the massive Kashi palace, having arrived in the city recently. Anandmi and Yervati had gone to meet Virabhadra and the Gunas. The Meluhan general was sitting in his chamber balcony, looking out towards the Ganga flowing in the distance. My lord, called out the doorman. Parvateshwar turned. Yes. A messenger has just delivered a note for you. Hand it to me. Yes, my lord. As the doorman came in, Parvati asked, "Who brought the message?" "The main palace doorkeeper, my lord." Parvati raised his brows. An outsider would not be allowed in, would he? What I wanted to know was who gave the message to the palace doorkeeper? The doorman looked lost. "How would I know, my lord?" Parvati sighed. These Swadweepens had no sense of systems and procedures. It's a wonder that an enemy didn't just stroll into their key installations. He took the neatly sealed papyrus scroll from the doorman and dismissed him. Parvati couldn't recognize the symbol on the seal. It appeared to be a star, the kind used in ancient astrological charts. He shrugged and broke it open. The script surprised him. It was one of the standard Meluhan military codes. This one was used exclusively by senior Suryavamshi military officers. It was meant for top-secret messages during times of war. For all others, the words in this scroll would have been absolute gibberish. "Lord Parvati, it's time to prove your loyalty to Meluha. Meet me in the garden behind the Sankatmakan temple at the end of the third prayer. Come alone." Parvati caught his breath. He instinctively looked towards the door. He was alone. He tucked the scroll into the pouch tied to his waistband. He knew what he had to do. The sound of bells, drums and prayer chants rent the morning air, day after day, at the Sankatmakan temple. Having thus awoken Lord Hanuman, the devotees then sing bhajans, as Lord Hanuman would do, to gently wake his master, Lord Ram. At the end of this elaborate puja, the great seventh Vishnu proceeds to grant darshan, the divine pleasure of beholding him. The silence at dusk, however, belied the exuberance of the dawn. This was the time when Parvati strode into the great temple. Parvati looked back to ensure that nobody was following him. Then he walked swiftly towards the garden behind the temple. It was quiet. Parvati approached a tree at the far end of the garden and sat leaning against it. "How are you, General?" asked a soft, polite voice. Parvati looked up. "I'll do a lot better when I see you." "Are you alone?" "I wouldn't have come had I not been alone." There was silence for some time. Parvati got up to leave. "If you are a true Meluhan, you would know that Meluhans don't lie." "Wait, General," said Brigu, as he emerged from the shadows. Parvati was stunned. He recognized the Saptrashiyutradhikari. He knew that, despite wielding tremendous influence, Brigu had never interfered in the workings of Meluha. He found it hard to believe that Brigu could involve himself in mundane matters of the material world. "I am taking a huge risk in meeting you face to face," smiled Brigu. "I had to be sure that you were alone." "What are you doing here, Maharishiji?" asked Parvati, bowing to the great sage. "I'm doing my duty, as you are doing yours." "But you have never interfered in earthly matters." "I have," said Brigu. "But only on rare occasion. And this is one such." Parvati remained silent. So Brigu is the true leader. He was the one who had sent the joint Meluha fleet to attack Lord Shiva's convoy by stealth outside Panchavati. Parvati's respect for Brigu went down a notch. The great sage was human after all. "You already know what you have to do," said Brigu. "I know that you will not support the fraud Neelkanth in attacking your beloved motherland." Parvati bristled with anger. "Lord Shiva is not a fraud. He's the finest man to have walked the earth since Lord Ram." Brigu stepped back, astonished. "Perhaps I was wrong. Perhaps you do not love Meluha as much as I thought you did." "Lord Brigu, I would die for Meluha," said Parvati, "for it is my duty to do so. But please don't make the mistake of thinking that I despise the Lord Neelkanth. He is my living God." Brigu frowned, even more surprised. He looked into Parvati's eyes. The normally restrained sage's mouth fell open ever so slightly. He realized that he was looking at a rare man who spoke exactly what he thought. Brigu's tenor changed and became respectful. "My apologies, great general. I can see that your reputation does you justice. I misunderstood you. Sometimes the hypocritical nature of the world makes us immune to a rare sincere man." Parvachwar remained silent. "Will you fight for Meluha?" asked Brigu. "To my last breath," whispered Parvachwar. "But I will fight according to Lord Ram's laws." "Of course. We will not break the rules of war." Brigu nodded silently. "I suggest, Maharashiji," said Parvachwar, "that you return to Meluha. I will follow in a few weeks." "It would not be wise to remain here, General," said Brigu. "If anything were to happen to you, the consequences for Meluha would be disastrous. Your army needs a good leader. I cannot leave without taking my lord's permission." Brigu thought he hadn't heard right. "Excuse me? Did you say that you wanted to take permission from the Nilkanth before leaving?" He was careful not to say fraud Nilkanth. "Yes," answered Parvachwar. "But why would he allow you to leave?" "I don't know if he will. But I know I cannot leave without his permission." Brigu spoke carefully. Lord Parvachwar, I don't think that you realize the gravity of the situation. If you tell the Nilkanth that you are going to lead his enemies, he will kill you." "No, he won't. But, if he chooses to do so, then that will be my fate." "My apologies for sounding rude, but this is foolhardy." "No, it's not. This is what a devotee does if he chooses to leave his lord." "But, Lord Brigu, this sounds peculiar to you because you haven't met Lord Shiva. His companions don't follow him out of fear. They do so because he is the most inspiring presence in their lives. My fate has put me in a position where I am being forced to oppose him. It's breaking my heart. I need his blessings and his permission to give me the strength to do what I have to do." Brigu's slow nod revealed a glimpse of grudging respect. The Nilkanth must be a special man to inspire such loyalty. "He is not just a special man, Maharashiji. He is a living god." Chapter 16. Secrets Revealed. "I think we've achieved what we came here for," said Sati. Gopal, Sati and Shiva had retired to their chambers in Surapadman's palace. As a mark of goodwill, Surapadman had persuaded them to stay on for a few days and allow him to ready a few weapons for Shiva's army. "Yes, I agree," said Gopal. "Surapadman's offer of weapons, though token in nature, is symbolic of his having allied with us. Not one other person from the Magadhan court has visited us though," said Shiva. "I hope that King Mahendra doesn't prevail upon Surapadman to do something unwise." "Do you think he may prevent our ships from passing through to Ayodhya?" asked Gopal. "I can't be sure," said Shiva. "It's most likely he will cooperate, but it depends on how his father reacts." "Let's hope for the best," said Sati. "What about my proclamation, Panditji?" "It will be ready and distributed in a few weeks from now," said Gopal. "Vasudev Pandits from across the country will give us constant updates as to the reaction of the people as well as the nobility." "But what if the Vasudev Pandits are discovered?" "No, they won't. The royals may know that the Vasudev tribe has allied with the Nilkanth, but they will never know the identity of the Vasudevs within their kingdoms." Shiva let out a long-drawn breath. "And so it shall begin." Bhagat arrived in Kashi late in the evening and proceeded directly to the palace. On reaching there, he was informed that Shiva had gone to Magad to explore an alliance with Surapadman. Bhagat, therefore, met Ganesh and Kartik to share his news with them. "The Indians seem to have a backup plan," said Bhagat. "They expect Magad to block their ships from carrying their soldiers onwards up the Gunga and towards Meluha. Hence, they intend to cut through the forests and have their army move northwest, right up to Dharmaket. From there, they can cross the Gunga and then use the newly built road to march to Meluha. That's logical, said Ganesh. But it will be slow. It will be many months before they can cut through the dense forests and reach Meluha. The war may actually be over by that time. Bhagat agreed. True. Ganesh leaned forward. But I can see that there is more. Bhagat could hardly contain himself. I know the identity of the one who leads our enemies. Maharishi Brigu? Suggested Kartik. Bhagat was amazed. How did you know? Bubba's friends, the Vasudevs, told us, answered Ganesh. Bhagat had heard stories about the legendary Vasudevs. Do the Vasudevs really exist? Yes they do, brave prince, said Kartik. Bhagat smiled. With friends like them, Lord Shiva doesn't need followers like me. Ganesh laughed. He could not have known when he agreed to your suggestion, that the Vasudevs would reveal the identity of a main conspirator. Of course, said Bhagat. But at least we now know about their backup plan of marching through the impenetrable forests to the northwest of Ayodhya. Yes, that is useful information, Bhagat, said Ganesh. Kartik suddenly sat up. Prince Bhagat, did you meet Maharishi Brigu personally? Yes. Kartik looked at Ganesh with concern. What's the matter? Asked Bhagat. Did he look into your eyes while speaking with you, Bhagat? Asked Ganesh. Where else would he be looking if he was talking to me? Kartik looked up at the ceiling. Lord Ram, be merciful. What happened? Asked a confused Bhagat. We've been told that Lord Brigu can read your mind by looking into your eyes, said Kartik. What? That's impossible. He's a Saptrashi Utradhikari, Bhagat, said Ganesh. Very few things are impossible for him. If he was distinctly looking into your eyes, chances are he has read your conscious thoughts. So he may have some very sensitive information about our plans. Good Lord, whispered Bhagat. I want you to carefully recall what you were thinking about while speaking with Lord Brigu, said Ganesh. I spoke about. Kartik interrupted Bhagat. It doesn't matter what you spoke. What matters is what you thought. Bhagat closed his eyes and tried to remember. I thought that my imbecile father could not have been the true leader of the conspiracy. That's no secret, said Ganesh. What else did you think about? I remember a feeling of dread when I realized that Lord Brigu is the true leader. I would have ideally not let him know your fears, said Kartik. But this too cannot harm us. I recall thinking that Lord Shiva had sent me to Ayodhya to discover the identity of the true leader. Again, said Ganesh, this is not very harmful information for an enemy to have. Bhagat continued. I thought about being attacked by the joint Meluha-Ayodhya ships at Panchavati and how we repelled the attack. Ganesh cursed under his breath. Bhagat looked at Ganesh apologetically. So Maharishi Brigu knows about the Panchavati defenses. I'm so sorry, Ganesh. Kartik patted Bhagat reassuringly on his arm. You did not intend this to happen. Prince Bhagat. Was there anything else? Oh, Lord Ryudra, whispered Bhagat. Ganesh's eyes narrowed. What? I thought about Parvateshwar wanting to defect to Meluha, said Bhagat. Ganesh stopped breathing while Kartik held his head. What now, Dada? Get Mosi here, Kartik, said Ganesh, asking his brother to fetch the queen of the Nagas, Kali. We know what we have to do, but Bubba's wrath will be terrible. Mosi can stand up to him. We need to know if she agrees with us. Kartik immediately left the room. A shocked Bhagat stared at Ganesh. I hope you are not thinking what I fear. Do we have a choice, Bhagat? Maharishi Brigu will try and contact Parvateshwar at the first opportunity and whisk him away. Ganesh, Parvateshwar is my sister's husband. We cannot kill him. Ganesh raised his hands in exasperation. Kill him? What are you talking about? Bhagat? Bhagat remained silent. I only want to arrest General Parvateshwar so that he cannot escape. Bhagat was about to say something when Ganesh interrupted him. We have no choice. If Parvateshwar goes over to their side, it would be disastrous for us. He is a brilliant strategist. Bhagat sighed. I am not contradicting you. What needs to be done has got to be done. But we cannot kill him. I will not be responsible for making my sister a widow. I wouldn't dream of killing a man like Parvateshwar. But we've got to arrest him. For all we know, Maharishi Brigu may already be attempting to make contact with him. A moonless night hung over an eerily quiet Ghat in Kashi, the normally busy port of Ati did receive a small number of ships at night, but the darkness had kept away even the few brave captains who attempted night dockings. A silent and pensive Parvateshwar was walking back from the Ghat. He had just dropped a shrouded Brigu to a waiting rowboat which would take him to a ship anchored in the middle of the river. Brigu intended to stop at Prayag for a short while and then proceed to Meluha. General Parvateshwar. Parvateshwar looked up to see Kali. The flickering light from the torches revealed that she was accompanied by Ganesh, Kartik and about 50 soldiers. Parvateshwar smiled. You've brought 50 soldiers to down one man? Asked Parvateshwar, his hand resting on his sword hilt. You think too highly of me, Queen Kali. Were you planning to escape, General? Asked Kali. The soldiers rapidly surrounded Parvateshwar, making escape impossible. Parvateshwar was about to answer when he saw a familiar figure next to Kartik. Bhagat? Yes, answered Bhagat. This is a sad day for me. I'm sure it is, said Parvateshwar sarcastically, before turning to Kali. So what do you plan on doing, Queen Kali? Kill me straight away or wait till the Lord Neelkanth returns? So you admit that you are a traitor, said Kali. I admit to nothing since you haven't asked anything. I did ask you if you were attempting an escape. If that were the case, I wouldn't be walking away from the Ghat, Your Highness. Have you met Maharishi Brigu? Asked Ganesh. Parvateshwar never lied. Yes. Kali sucked in a sharp breath, reaching for her sword. Mausi, said Ganesh, pleading with the Naga Queen to keep her temper in check. Where is the Maharishi, General? He's back on a boat, said Parvateshwar, probably on his way to Meluha. You know what comes next, don't you? Asked Kali. Do I get a soldier's death? Asked Parvateshwar. Will you all attack me one by one so I have the pleasure of killing a few of you? Or will you just pounce on me like a pack of cowardly hyenas? Nobody is getting killed, General, said Ganesh. We Nagas have a justice system. Your treachery will be proven in court and then you will be punished. No Naga is going to judge me, said Parvateshwar. I recognize only two courts, the one sanctioned by the laws of Meluha and the other of the Lord Neelkanth. Then you shall receive justice from the Neelkanth when he returns, said Kali, before turning towards the soldiers. Arrest the general. Parvateshwar didn't argue. He stretched out his hands as he looked at the crestfallen face of the man handcuffing him. It was Nandi. Shiva, Sati and Gopal were dining in the Neelkanth's chamber at Magad. The captain of the ship met me in the evening, said Sati. All the weapons have been loaded. We can sail for Kashi tomorrow morning. Good, said Shiva. We can begin our campaign within a few weeks. Gopal had anticipated this. I have already sent a message to the Pandit of the Narsimha temple in Magad. He will relay it to King Chandraketu, who will then set sail with an armada and await further instructions at the port of Vaishali. Bhagat, Ganesh and Kartik will travel with them to Ayodhya, said Shiva. Ganesh will lead the Eastern Command. A wise choice, said Gopal. The Western army, comprising the Vasudevs, the Nagas and those Brangas who have been assigned to the Nagas, will attack Meluha under my command. We will set sail along with Kali and Parvateshwar within a week of reaching Kashi. I have already sent a message to Ujjain, said Gopal. The army has marched out with dismantled sections of our ships which will be reassembled on the Narmada. We will sail together to the Western Sea and farther up the coast, to Lothal. What about your war elephants, Panditji? Asked Sati. How will they reach Meluha? Our elephant corps will set out from Ujjain through the jungles, and meet us at Lothal, answered Gopal. Gopalji, can the Narsimha temple Pandit send out a message to Saparna and Panchavati as well? Asked Shiva. Kali has appointed her the commander of the Naga army in her absence. They should join us at the Narmada. I shall do that, Neelkanth, said Gopal. Chapter 17. Honor imprisoned. An underground chamber beneath the royal palace had been converted into a temporary prison for General Parvateshwar. Though the public prisons of peaceful Kashi were humane, it would have been a slight to a man of Parvateshwar's stature to be imprisoned along with common criminals. The spacious chamber, though luxuriously appointed, was windowless. Not taking any chances, Parvateshwar's hands and legs had been securely shackled, while a platoon of crack nugget troops guarded the sole exit. 2 senior officers watched over Parvateshwar at all times. Nandi and Parshuram kept first watch. My apologies, General, said Parshuram. Parvateshwar smiled. You don't need to apologize, Parshuram. You are following orders. That is your duty. Nandi sat opposite Parvateshwar, but kept his face averted. Are you angry with me, Major Nandi? Asked Parvateshwar. What right do I have to be angry with you, General? If there's something about me that's troubling you, then you have every right to be angry. Lord Ram had asked us to always be true to ourselves. Nandi remained silent. Parvateshwar smiled ruefully and then looked away. Nandi gathered the courage to speak. Are you being true to yourself, General? Yes, I am. Forgive me, but you are not. You're betraying your living God. With visible effort, Parvateshwar kept his temper in check. It is only the very unfortunate who must choose between their God and their Swadharma. Are you saying that your personal dharma is leading you away from good? I'm saying no such thing, Major Nandi. But my duty towards Meluha is most important to me. Rebelling against your God is treason. Some may hold that rebelling against your country is a greater treason. I disagree. Of course, Meluha is important to me, I would readily die for it. But I wouldn't fight my living God for the sake of Meluha. That would be completely wrong. I'm not saying that you're wrong, Major Nandi. Then you admit to being wrong yourself. I didn't say that either. How can that be, General? Asked Nandi. We're talking about polar opposites. One of us has got to be wrong. Parvateshwar smiled. It is such a staunch Suryavanshi belief, the opposite of truth has to be untruth. Nandi remained silent. But Anandmi has taught me something profound, said Parvateshwar. There is your truth and there is my truth. As for the universal truth, it does not exist. The universal truth does exist, though it has always been an enigma to human beings. Smiled Parshuram. And it will continue to remain an enigma for as long as we are bound to this mortal body. Anandmi stormed into Bhagat's chambers in the Kashi palace, brushing the guard aside. What the hell have you done? She shouted. Bhagat immediately rose and walked towards his sister. Anandmi, we had no choice. Damn it. He is my husband. How dare you? Anandmi, It is very likely he will share our plans with. Don't you know Parvateshwar? Do you think he will ever do anything unethical? He used to walk away whenever you spoke about the Lord Neelkanth's directives. He's not aware of any of your confidential military plans. You were right. I'm sorry. Then why is he under arrest? An enemy. It wasn't my decision. That's rubbish. Why is he under arrest? He might escape if. Do you think he couldn't have escaped had he wanted to? He is waiting to meet the Lord Neelkanth. Only then will he leave for Meluha. That's what he said. But, what the hell do you mean but? Do you think Parvateshwar can lie? Do you think he is even capable of lying? No. If he has said that he will not leave till Lord Shiva returns, then believe me, he's not going anywhere. Bhagat remained silent. Anandmi stepped up to her brother. Are you planning to assassinate him? No, Anandmi, cried a shocked Bhagat. How can you even think I would do such a thing? Don't pull this injured act on me, Bhagat. If anything were to happen to my husband, even an accident, you know that the Lord Neelkanth's anger will be terrible. You and your allies may discount me, but you are scared of him. Remember his rage before you do something stupid. Anandmi, we are not. The Lord Neelkanth will be back in a week. Until then, I'm going to keep a constant vigil outside the chamber where you have imprisoned him. If anyone wants to harm him, he will have to contend with me first. Anandmi, nobody is going to. She turned and strode away stiffly, causing Bhagat to trail off mid-sentence. She pushed aside the diminutive Kashi soldier standing in her path and slammed the door behind her even as the soldier fell. Yarvati placed a hand on Anandmi's shoulders. The Indian princess was sitting outside the chamber where Parvateshwar had been imprisoned. She had refused to move for the last few days. Why don't you go to your room and sleep, said Yarvati. I'll sit here. A determined Anandmi shook her head. Wild horses couldn't drag her away. Anandmi. They aren't even letting me meet him, Yarvati, sobbed Anandmi. Yarvati sat down next to Anandmi. I know. Anandmi turned towards the Naga soldiers standing guard at the door. My husband is no criminal. Yarvati took Anandmi's hand in hers. Calm down. These soldiers are only following orders. He's no criminal. He's a good man. I know. Anandmi rested her head on Yarvati's shoulders and began to cry. Calm down, said Yarvati soothingly. Anandmi raised her head and looked at Yarvati. I don't care if the entire world turns against him. I don't even care if the Neelkanth turns against him. I will stand by my husband. He is a good man. A good man. Have faith in the Neelkanth. Have faith in his justice. Speak to him the moment he arrives in Kashi. The sun was directly overhead as Shiva's ship prepared to dock at a sea ghat. Shiva, Sati and Gopal were at the balustrade. I do not understand why King Athithigva has to organize a grand reception every time I come here, said Shiva as he looked at the giant canopy and vast throngs of people waiting. Gopal smiled. I don't think Lord Athithigva orders his people to assemble, my friend. The people gather of their own accord to welcome their Neelkanth. Yes, but it is so unnecessary, said Shiva. They shouldn't be taking a break from their work to welcome me. If they really do want to honor me, they should work even harder at their jobs. Gopal laughed. People have a tendency to do what they want to do rather than what they should be doing. The ship was now close enough for them to see the expressions of the people on the dock, even the nobility standing farther away on higher ground. Something is not right, said Sati. Why is everyone looking troubled? Asked Gopal. Shiva studied the crowds carefully. You were right. Something's wrong. King Athithigva seems disturbed, said Sati. Kali, Ganesh, Kartik and Bhagat are in a heated discussion, said Shiva. What's troubling them so much? Sati tapped Shiva lightly. Look at Anandmi. Where? Asked Shiva, not finding her in the area cordoned off for the nobility. She's in the crowd, said Sati, gesturing with her eyes. Right where the ships gangplank will land. Perhaps she wants to talk to you the moment you step off, my friend, said Gopal. She looks deeply agitated, Shiva, said Sati. Shiva scanned the entire port area. And he softly asked, where is Parveshwar? The guard stepped aside as the Neelkanth stormed into the temporary prison. Sati, Gopal, Anandmi and Kali could hardly keep pace. He encountered Veerbhadra, Parshuram and Nandi in deep conversation with a fettered Parveshwar. What the hell is the meaning of this? Shouted a livid Shiva. My lord, said Parveshwar as he rose, the chains clinking. Nandi, Veerbhadra and Parshuram rose too. Remove his chains. Shiva, said Kali softly, I don't think that is wise. Remove his chains now. Nandi and Parshuram immediately set to work. The chains were removed with great haste. Parveshwar rubbed his wrists, helping the blood flow freely. Leave me alone with Parveshwar. Shiva, said Veerbhadra. Have I not made myself clear, Bhadra? Everybody leave right now. Kali shook her head disapprovingly, but obeyed. The other stepped out without any sign of protest. Shiva turned to Parveshwar, his eyes blazing with fury. Parveshwar was the first to speak. My lord. Shiva raised his hand, signaling for him to keep quiet. Parveshwar obeyed. Immediately, Shiva looked away as he walked back and forth, breathing deeply to calm his mind. He remembered his uncle Minabu's words. Anger is your enemy. Control it. Control it. Much as he tried, Shiva could feel the fury welling up within him like a coiled snake, waiting to strike. But his mind also told him that the issue at hand was far too important to allow anger to cloud his judgment. Once he had breathed some calm into his mind and heart, Shiva turned to Parveshwar. Tell me this is not true. Just say it and I will believe you, regardless of what anyone else says. My lord, this is the most difficult decision I have ever had to make in my life. Do you intend to fight me, Parveshwar? No, my lord. But I'm duty-bound to protect Meluha. I hope some miracle ensures that. You and Meluha are not on opposite sides. Miracle? Miracle? Are you a child, Parveshwar? Do you think it is possible for me to compromise with Meluha where the Samras is concerned? No, my lord. Do you think that the Samras is not evil? No, my lord. The Samras is evil. I have stopped using it from the moment you said that it was evil. Then why would you fight to protect the Samras? I will only fight to protect Meluha. But they are on the same side. That is my misfortune, my lord. You stubborn. Shiva checked himself in time. Parveshwar remained silent. He knew the Neelkanth's anger was justified. Is Brigu forcing you to do this? Has he captured somebody who is important to you? We can take care of that. No one important to you will get hurt as long as I am alive. Maharishi Brigu is not forcing me in any way, my lord. Then who in Lord Ryudra's name is making you do this? My soul. I have no choice. This is what I must do. That does not make any sense, Parveshwar. Do you actually believe that your soul is forcing you to fight for evil? My soul is only making me fight for my motherland, my lord. This is a call that I cannot refuse. It is my purpose. Your soul is taking you down a dangerous path, Parveshwar. Then so be it. No danger should distract one from walking one's path. What nonsense is this? Do you think Brigu cares about you? All he cares for is the Samras. Trust me, once your purpose is served, you will be killed. All of us will die when we have served our purpose. That is the way of the universe. Shiva covered his face with his hands in sheer frustration. I know you are angry, my lord, said Parveshwar. But your purpose is to fight evil. And you must do all that you can to accomplish it. Shiva continued to stare at Parveshwar silently. All I am asking is for you to understand that just like you have to serve your purpose, I must serve mine. Your soul will not allow you to rest till you have destroyed evil. My soul will not allow me to rest till I have done all that I can to protect Meluha. Shiva ran his hands over his face, trying desperately to maintain his calm. Do you think I am wrong, Parveshwar? Please, my lord. How can I ever think that? You would never do anything that is wrong. Then can you please explain the strange workings of your mind? You will not walk with me, although you admit that my path is right. Instead, you insist on walking on a path which leads to your death. In the name of Lord Rayudra, why? Svadharmanayanam Shriyaha Paradharmo Bhayavaha, said Parveshwar. Death in the course of performing one's own duty is better than engaging in another's path, for that is truly dangerous. Shiva stared hard at Parveshwar for what seemed like an eternity, then turned around and bellowed. Nandi! Bhadra! Parshuram! They rushed in. General Parveshwar will continue to remain our prisoner, said Shiva. As you command, my lord, said Nandi, saluting Shiva. And Nandi, the general will not be chained. Chapter 18. On Aurora victory? I say that we have no choice, said Kali. I agree we cannot kill him, but he must remain our prisoner here till the end of the war. Shiva and his family, along with Gopal, were assembled in the Neelkanth's private chambers at the Kashi palace. Ganesh glanced at a seething Sati and decided to hold his counsel. Kartik, however, had no such compunctions. I agree with Mausi. Shiva looked at Kartik. I know that it is a difficult decision, continued Kartik. Parveshwarji has behaved with absolute honor. He was not privy to any of our strategy discussions. He could have escaped on multiple occasions, but did not. He waited till you returned so he could take your permission to leave. But you're the Neelkanth, Bubba. You have the responsibility for India on your shoulders. Sometimes, for the sake of the larger good, one has to do things that may not appear right at the time. Perhaps, a laudable end can justify some questionable means. Sati glared at her younger son. Kartik, how can you think that a great end justifies questionable means? Can we accept a world where the Samras continues to thrive? Of course we can't, said Sati. But do you think that this struggle is only about the Samras? Ganesh finally spoke up. Of course it is, man. No, it is not, said Sati. It is also about the legacy that we will leave behind, of how Shiva will be remembered. People from across the world will analyze every aspect of his life and draw lessons. They will aspire to be like him. Didn't we all criticize Lord Brigu for using the Devi Astras in the attack on Panchavati? The Maharishi must have justified what he did with arguments similar to what you're advocating. If we behave in the same way, then what will differentiate us from him? People only remember victors, Didi, said Kali. For history is written by victors. They can write it however they want. The losers are always remembered the way the victors portray them. What is important right now is for us to ensure our victory. Please allow me to disagree, Your Highness, said Gopal. It is not true that only victors determine history. Of course, it is, said Kali. There is a Deva version of events and an Asura version of events. Which version do we remember? If you talk about the present-day India, then yes, the Deva version is remembered, said Gopal. But even today, the Asura version is well known outside of India. But we live here, said Kali. Why should we bother about the beliefs that prevail elsewhere? Perhaps I have been unable to make myself clear, Your Highness, said Gopal. It's not just about the place, but also about the time. Will the Deva version of history always be remembered the way it is? Or is it possible that different versions will emerge? Remember, if there's a victor's version of events, then there's a victim's narrative that survives equally. For as long as the victors remain in command, their version holds ground. But if history has taught us one thing, it is that communities rise and fall in eminence just as surely as the tides ebb and flow. There comes a time when victors do not remain as powerful, when the victims of old become the elite of the day. Then, one will find that narratives change just as dramatically. This new version becomes the popular version in time. I disagree, dismissed Kali. Unless the victims escape to another land, like the Asuras, they will always remain powerless, their experience is dismissed as myths. Not quite, said Gopal. Let me talk about something that is close to your heart. In the times that we live, the Nagas are feared and cursed as demons. Many millennia ago, they were respected. After winning this war they will become respectable and powerful once again as loyal allies of the Neelkanth. Your version of history will then begin to gain currency once again, won't it? An unconvinced Kali chose to remain silent. An interesting factor is the conduct of the erstwhile victims in the new era, said Gopal. Armed with fresh empowerment, will they seek vengeance on the surviving old elite? Obviously the victims will nurse hatred in their hearts. Would you expect them to be filled with the milk of human kindness? Asked Kali, sarcastically. You hate the Meluhans, don't you? Yes, I do. But how do you feel about the founding father of Meluha, Lord Ram? Kali was quiet. She held Lord Ram in deep reverence. Why do you revere Lord Ram, but reject the people he left behind? Asked Gopal. Sati spoke up on her sister's behalf. That is because Lord Ram treated even his enemies honorably, quite unlike the present-day Meluhans. Shiva observed Sati with quiet satisfaction. A man becomes God when his vision moves beyond the bounds of victors and losers, said Sati. Shiva's message has to live on forever. And that can only happen if both the victors and the losers find validation in him. That he must win is a given. But equally critical is his winning the right way. Gopal was quick to support Sati. Honor must beget honor. That is the only way. Shiva walked to the balcony and gazed at the massive Kashi Vishwanath temple on the sacred avenue, and beyond it at the holy Ganga. Everyone was poised for his decision. He turned and whispered, I need some time to think. We will meet again tomorrow. Sati looked down. The clear waters of the lake lay below her. The fish swam rapidly, keeping pace with her as she flew over the water, towards the banks in the distance. She looked up towards a massive black mountain, different in hue from all the surrounding mountains, topped by a white cap of snow. As she drew close, her vision fell upon a yogi on the banks of the lake. He wore a tiger skin skirt. His long, matted hair had been tied up in a bun. His muscular body was covered by numerous battle scars. A small halo, almost like the sun, shone behind his head. A crescent moon was lodged in his hair while a snake slithered around his neck. A massive trident stood sentinel beside him, half buried in the ground. The face of the yogi was blurred, though. And then the mists cleared. Shiva, said Sati. Shiva smiled at her. Is this your home, Kailash? Shiva nodded, never once taking his eyes off her. We shall come here one day, my love. When it's all over, we shall live together in your beautiful land. Shiva's smile broadened. Where are Ganesh and Kartik? Shiva didn't answer. Shiva, where are our sons? Suddenly, Shiva started aging. His handsome face was rapidly overrun by wrinkles. His matted hair turned white almost instantaneously. His massive shoulders began to droop, his taut muscles dissolving before Sati's very eyes. Sati smiled. "Will we grow old together?" Shiva's eyes flew wide open, like he was looking at something that did not make sense. Sati looked down at her reflection in the waters. She frowned in surprise. She hadn't aged a day. She still looked as young as always. She turned back towards her husband. "But I've stopped using the samras. What does this mean?" Shiva was horror-struck. Tears were flowing fiercely down his wrinkled cheeks as his face was twisted in agony. He reached out with his hand, screaming loudly, "Sati!" Sati looked down. Her body was on fire. "Sati!" He screamed once again, getting up and running towards the lake. "Don't leave me." Still facing Shiva, Sati began to fly backwards, faster and faster, the wind fanning the flames on her body. But even through the blaze she could see her husband running desperately towards her. "Sati!" Sati woke up with a start. The beautifully carved Kashi palace ceiling looked ethereal in the flickering torchlight. The only sound was that of the water trickling down the porous walls, cooling the hot dry breeze as it flowed in. Sati instinctively reached out to her left. Shiva wasn't there. Alarmed, she was up in a flash. "Shiva!" She heard him call out from the balcony. "I'm here, Sati." Walking across, she could make out Shiva's silhouette in the darkness as he leaned back in an easy chair, focused on the Vishwanath temple in the distance. Nestling comfortably against him on the armrest, she reached out her hand and ran it lovingly through her husband's locks. It wasn't a full moon night, but there was enough light for Shiva to clearly see his wife's expression. "What's the matter?" asked Shiva. Sati shook her head. "Nothing." "Something's wrong. You look disturbed." "I had a strange dream." "I dreamed that we were separated." Shiva smiled and pulled Sati close to him, embracing her. "You can dream all you want. But you're never getting away from me." Sati laughed. "I don't intend to." Shiva held his wife close, turning his gaze back to the Vishwanath temple. "What are you thinking?" asked Sati. "I'm just thinking that marrying you was the best thing I ever did." Sati smiled. "I'm not going to disagree with that. But what specifically brought that up at this time?" Shiva ran his hand along Sati's face. "Because I know that for as long as you're with me, you will always keep me centered on the right path." "So, you've decided to do the right thing with?" "Yes, I have." Sati nodded in satisfaction. "We will win, Shiva." "Yes, we will. But it has to be the right way." "Absolutely," said Sati, and quoted Lord Ram. "There is no wrong way to do the right thing." A select assembly awaited the arrival of Parveshwar, who was to be produced in the court of Kashi during the second prayer. The Kashi nobility was represented by Althithigva alone. Shiva sat impassively, his closest advisers around him in a semicircle: Gopal, Sati, Kali, Ganesh, and Kartik. Bhagat and Yarvati stood at a distance. Anandmi was missing. Shiva nodded towards Althithigva. Althithigva called out loudly, "Bring the general in." Parshuram, Virabhadra and Nandi escorted Parveshwar into the hall. The Meluhan general was unchained, keeping in mind Shiva's explicit orders. He glanced briefly at Sati before turning to look at Shiva. The Nilkant's rigid face was inscrutable. Parveshwar expected to be put to death. He knew Shiva would not have wanted to do it, but the others would have convinced him of the necessity of getting rid of the general. Parveshwar also knew that regardless of what happened to him, he would treat the Nilkanth with the honor that the Lord deserved. The general clicked his heels together and brought his bald right fist up to his chest. And then, completing the Meluhan military salute, he bowed low towards the Nilkanth. He did not bother with anyone else. Parvateshwar, said Shiva. Parvateshwar immediately looked up. I do not want to drag this on for too long, said Shiva. Your rebellion has shocked me. But it has also reinforced my conviction that we are fighting evil and it will not make things easy for us. It can lead even the best amongst us astray, if not through inducements, then through dubious calls of honor. Parvateshwar continued to stare at Shiva, waiting for the sentence. But when one fights against evil, one has to fight with good, said Shiva. Not just on the side of good, but with good in one's heart. Therefore, I have decided to allow you to leave. Parvateshwar couldn't believe his ears. Go now, said Shiva. Parvateshwar was only half listening. This magnificent gesture from the Nilkanth had brought tears to his eyes. But let me assure you, continued Shiva coldly, the next time we meet, it will be on a battlefield. And that will be the day I will kill you. Parvateshwar bowed his head once again, his eyes clouded with tears. That will also be the day of my liberation, my lord. Shiva stayed stoic. Parvateshwar looked up at Shiva. But for as long as I live, my lord, I shall fight to protect Meluha. Go, said Shiva. Parvateshwar smiled at Sati. She brought her hands together in a polite but expressionless namaste. Parvateshwar mouthed the word Vijayabhav silently, blessing his goddaughter with victory. As he turned around to leave, he saw Urvati and Bhagat standing by the door. He walked up to them. My apologies, Parvateshwar, said Bhagat. I understand, replied Parvateshwar, impassively. Parvateshwar looked at Urvati. Urvati just shook her head. Do you realize that you are leaving one of the most magnificent men ever born? I do, said Parvateshwar. But I will have the good fortune of dying at his hands. Urvati breathed deeply and patted Parvateshwar on his shoulder. I will miss you, my friend. I will miss you too. Parvateshwar scanned the room quickly. Where's an enemy? She's waiting for you at the port, said Bhagat, beside the ship that will take you away. Parvateshwar nodded. He looked back one last time at Shiva and then walked out. The harbor master came up to him just as Parvateshwar reached the Asi Ghat. General, your ship is berthed in that direction. He began walking in the direction indicated. Parvateshwar saw an enemy by the gangplank of a small vessel, obviously a merchant ship. Did you know that I would be allowed to leave honorably? Asked a smiling Parvateshwar as soon he reached her. When they told me this morning to arrange a ship to sail up the Ganga, said an enemy, I could surmise it was not to carry your corpse all the way to Meluhan and display it to the Suryavanshis. Parvateshwar laughed. Also, I never lost faith in the Nilkanth, said an enemy. Yes, said Parvateshwar. He's the finest man born since Lord Ram. Anandmi looked at the ship. It's not much, I admit. It will not be comfortable, but it's quick. Parvateshwar suddenly stepped forward and embraced Anandmi. It took a surprised Anandmi a moment to respond. Parvateshwar was not a man given to public displays of affection. She knew that it was deeply uncomfortable for him, so she never tried to embrace him in public. Anandmi smiled warmly and caressed his back. It's all over now. Parvateshwar pulled back a little, but kept his arms around his wife. I will miss you. Miss me? Asked Anandmi. You have been the best thing that ever happened to me, said an emotional Parvateshwar, tears in his eyes. Anandmi raised her eyebrows and laughed. And I will continue to happen to you. Let's go. Let's go? Yes. Where? Meluha. You are coming to Meluha? Yes. Parvateshwar stepped back. Anandmi, the path ahead is dangerous. I honestly don't think that Meluha can win. So? I cannot permit you to put your life in danger. Did I seek your permission? An enemy, you cannot. Parvati stopped speaking as an enemy held his hand, turned around and started walking up the gangplank. Parvati followed quietly with a smile on his face and tears in his eyes.